Ladies and gentlemen, people of rank, and distinguished guests, welcome and good afternoon. My name is Sergeant Reed, and today we are going to be talking about Medal of Honor recipient Rodolfo Perez Hernandez. I apologize in advance. Due to some unforeseen technical difficulties, our PowerPoint is not projecting the way I would have liked it to. That being said, we're going to continue on with the presentation, and we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. Please save all questions for the end and take notes as needed. That being said, continuing on. Corporal Rodolfo Perez Hernandez, otherwise known as Rudy Hernandez, was born on April 14th, 1931. He was born in Colton, California, and he was raised on a farm with his parents as well as 8 other siblings. He spent most of his time growing up on the farm with his parents as well as attending primary school. But in 1948, at 17 years old, Rudy Hernandez enlisted in the United States Army without his parents' consent. After the completion of basic training, Hernandez volunteered for what was at the time known as the United States Army Paratrooper School, now formerly known as the United States Army Airborne School. Reason being, he wanted to join the paratrooping community, and his words were, "Jumping out of an airplane would feel like a rush of adrenaline unlike any other." That being said, after completion of paratrooper training, he was stationed in Germany with the 187th Airborne Infantry Regiment. But during the height of the Korean War and the outbreak, the 187th was redesigned and reorganized as the 187th Airborne Regimental Combat Team. The unit was quickly sent to Korea, and at that point, the 187th Airborne Regimental Combat Team jumped into Mansani Valley as well as fought battles in Inji and Wantani. During the reorganization of the 187th, Hernandez was reassigned to Golf Company, 2nd Battalion, 187th Airborne Regimental Combat Team. His platoon was ordered to defend Hill 420, located near Wantani. On May 31st, 1951, his platoon was the object of a numerically superior enemy counterattack. A close quarters battle broke out when enemy troops surged up the hill and inflicted numerous casualties on his platoon. The platoon took multiple rounds of indirect fire as well as many uncounted effective artillery fire rounds. After the effective artillery fire as well as indirect fire, the North Koreans launched a foot attack and stormed uphill armed with rifles and hand grenades. They had speed, surprise, and violence of action on their side. As they stormed up Hill 420, the platoon, as well as Hernandez, were severely outnumbered and not prepared for this attack. Hernandez himself, as well as many other members of the platoon, were casualties from small arms fire as well as shrapnel from grenades. After losing fire superiority, the platoon was ordered to abandon and retreat from Hill 420. In the process of doing so, Hernandez noticed fellow platoon mates caught in an open area and severely injured and unable to defend themselves. At which point, Corporal Hernandez rushed to his friend's aid. Armed with only a rifle and a bayonet, he fiercely charged the enemy until he ran out of ammo. At which point, Corporal Hernandez engaged multiple enemy combatants in hand-to-hand combat. In this courageous act alone, Hernandez killed 6 enemy combatants with only a bayonet before being knocked unconscious due to fragmentation from a hand grenade. The blast alone caused Corporal Hernandez to take severe trauma, and this blast blew off half his face, as well as causing Hernandez to lose pieces of his brain. Despite the massive injury, the courageous acts of Hernandez halted the enemy attack and allowed freedom of maneuver for American forces to advance back onto Hill 420 and regress/flank the North Koreans. When the American platoon finally seized Hill 420 from the North Koreans, medics finally made their way to Corporal Hernandez as well as the other members of the platoon still on the ground. The medics were ready to declare Corporal Rudy dead, but they were very stunned to see that Hernandez was responsive and able to move his fingers. At which point that day, Corporal Hernandez was rushed to an American military hospital, where he later woke up a month afterwards, unable to speak or walk. On April 12th, 1952, towards the end of the Korean War, President Truman bestowed the Medal of Honor to Corporal Hernandez in the White House Gardens. There, President Truman addressed the word of the heroic acts of not only Hernandez, but the acts and bravery of his platoon on Hilltop 420. At which point, 5 years later, after extensive surgery and rehabilitation, Corporal Hernandez was able to regain limited use of his right hand and began learning how to write with his left hand. 2 years after that, Corporal Hernandez was able to walk and later regain complete use of his ability to speak. After gaining full rehabilitation of his body, minus some injuries in his right arm, Rudy Hernandez finally settled down and married, as well as having 3 kids of his own. He worked in the Veterans Administration and lived in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where he also served as a town marshal. In December of 2013, after battling from cancer and retiring from the Veterans Administration, Hernandez died in Womack Army Medical Center in North Carolina. His family remarks that he lived a full and healthy life, a life of which modeled selflessness and courage, as well as loyalty and duty to our great nation. Corporal Hernandez is honored in D.C. as one of the many thousands of Medal of Honor recipients. South Korea also has a monument in Corporal Hernandez's name. If you read the obituary as well as the Medal of Honor citation, the Medal of Honor citation reads that Corporal Hernandez, a member of Golf Company, distinguished himself by conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty and action against the enemy. His platoon, in defensive positions on Hilltop 420, came under a ruthless attack by a numerically superior and fanatical hostile force, armed with heavy artillery, mortar, and machine gun fire, which inflicted numerous casualties on the platoon. Corporal Hernandez, although wounded in exchange of grenades, continued to deliver deadly fire into the ranks of the onrushing assailants. Immediately leaving his position to help his friends of his platoon, Hernandez rushed the enemy armed with only a rifle and bayonet, fiercely engaging the foe, killing 6 of the enemy combatants before falling unconscious from a grenade, and miraculously saving the lives of his fellow platoon mates. Some distinguished awards are the Medal of Honor, as well as receiving 2 Purple Hearts for the acts on Hilltop 420, the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Army of Occupation Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Korean Service Medal, and the United Nations Service Medal. He has many books written about him, one being A Man Comes to Flower by Cornerstone and produced as a play. Corporal Hernandez is buried in Fayetteville, North Carolina, in Sand Hills State Veterans Cemetery. This concludes the presentation. Does anyone have any questions?